There's a road outside of Cold Hollow, Vermont, where no one dares to tread after dark. Locals call it Black Birch Hollow, named after the gnarled, twisting trees that loom over the single-lane dirt path like skeletal fingers. But it's not the trees that keep people away, it's the thing that lives among them. It began decades ago when a farmer's boy, Sammy Grayson, went missing. He was found 3 days later, hanging by his ankles from a black birch tree, his body drained of blood. His face was frozen in a scream so terrible that even the coroner had nightmares for years. The sheriff at the time claimed it was the work of a wild animal, but the townsfolk knew better. They whispered about the Hollow One, a shadowy figure said to crawl on all fours through the underbrush, luring travellers off the path with whispers that sound like loved ones calling for help. No one who went looking for those voices ever returned. One autumn night, Jake and his girlfriend Tessa decided to test the legend. Armed with flashlights and teenage bravado, they drove out to Black Birch Hollow. The air was unnaturally still when they arrived, their headlights barely piercing the dense fog that clung to the trees. Jake laughed nervously. "Jake, see, nothing to worry about. Tessa, let's just stay by the car, okay?" But then they heard it. A faint voice drifting through the trees. "Help me!" It was a woman's voice, soft and broken, like someone struggling to speak. Tessa froze. "Did you hear that?" Jake's flashlight beam wavered, probably just the wind. "Help me!" The voice came again, closer now, and unmistakably human. Jake clenched his jaw. Someone might be hurt. "Stay here, I'll check it out." "Jake, no!" Tessa grabbed his arm, but he pulled away and disappeared into the mist. Minutes passed, then 20. Tessa stood by the car, shivering, the flashlight trembling in her grip. "Jake?" Her voice cracking, silence, and then, "Help me?" But this time the voice was Jake's. "Tessa, I'm hurt. I need you." Tessa hesitated, her heart hammering. It didn't sound quite right. Too sharp, too clipped like a bad recording, but the fear in his voice pushed her forward. She stepped into the hollow, the black birches closing in around her. The voice kept calling, leading her deeper and deeper. The mist grew thicker, muffling sound until she could barely hear her own footsteps, and then she saw it. Jake stood ahead, his back to her, motionless. Relief surged through her. "Jake!" she cried, rushing toward him, but as she got closer, she stopped cold. Jake's head was tilted at an unnatural angle, his neck twisted so far it nearly faced backward. His mouth hung open, but it wasn't him speaking. His lips didn't move. "Help me!" The voice came from behind her. Tessa spun around and screamed. There, emerging from the trees, was a creature so gaunt it looked like it had been starved for centuries. Its skin was grey and stretched tight over jagged bones, its eyes nothing but hollow black pits. It grinned, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. "Tessa," it whispered, in her own voice this time. She tried to run, but the ground seemed to shift beneath her, the mist pulling at her ankles. She tripped and fell hard, the flashlight rolling out of her hand. In the brief moment before the light flickered out, she saw the creature crawling toward her on all fours, its head cocked at an impossible angle, grinning wider and wider. The last thing she heard before darkness swallowed her was the echo of her own scream, distorted and mocking, as the Hollow One dragged her into the black birches. The next morning, the car was found abandoned at the edge of the hollow. No sign of Jake or Tessa, just the flashlight, lying in the dirt, its bulb cracked, and faint bloody handprints leading into the trees. Locals say the hollow is quieter now, as though it's satisfied for the time being, but every so often someone passing by swears they hear whispers from the woods. Help me? Like and subscribe for more stories like this.